Okay, Chapter 4, Part 2 of your final exam review. This is the part of the video that you must watch. It's going to take a few minutes, and I'm just going to help you refresh your memory about what this chapter was all about. This part you must watch, and you must jot these notes down before you attempt any of the practice. So the first thing to remember about our graphing linear equations unit is we used this equation of a line very, very often. This is called slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to actually have you write this down in this part of your train as well, y equals mx plus b. That's how all of your equations are usually written at the very, very end, y equals mx plus b form. This m, it's important to remember that the m stands for slope. And when we talk about b in slope-intercept form, we're talking about the y-intercept. Where it crosses the y-axis. It's also important to remember that when you're graphing something in slope-intercept form, that the slope is how we move. So m is how we move. And the intercept, or the b, is where we begin. Is funky here. Okay, so if I ask you to graph them, that's little hints for how to remember. Begin at the B on the y-axis, and you move with the slope. Continuing to talk about slope a little bit, whenever you are asked to graph a slope of a line, it's important to remember that it's always rise over run. So if you're graphing that on your coordinate plane, you're going to always start by either going up if it's positive and down if it's negative. Then after you go up or down, then you're going to always run to the right. That's how you graph it. Additionally, the slope of a line, you can find that by doing your martini glasses. So remember y squared, or y to the second y minus the first y over the second x minus the first x. So if it asks you to calculate the slope, this is the formula that you're going to use. Additionally, we talked about parallel and perpendicular lines. So remember, parallel lines never touch. And if you're comparing two lines that are parallel, if you're looking at them in slope-intercept form, you're going to see that they have the same slope. That's how you identify them from an equation. And then if I ask you to identify perpendicular slopes, remember perpendicular lines form a right angle. They look like this. Oops. Two lines that cross. And those slopes are going to be opposite, reciprocal. So just to give you an example, if I have a slope of a line that's 1 over 2, oops. If I asked you to write the slope of a line that's perpendicular with this slope, the opposite, it would be negative, since this one's positive, and reciprocal just means to flip it, so it's going to be 2 over 1. So keep that in mind when you're talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. So the last piece of notes that you need to write down, remember, usually this is how we end in slope-intercept form, but sometimes we can't just write it in slope-intercept form to start. So sometimes we have to work our way through the train. So if you only are given 2 points, so 2 ordered pairs, if that's all you're given, then you have to work your way through the slope formula. So remember, the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x squared minus, not x squared, I'm sorry, x2 minus x1, okay? If you are given more than 2 points and you're given maybe a point and a slope, so you're given an ordered pair and a slope, then you can start at point slope form. So this is where you're going to do y minus y1 equals our slope, and then x, oh my gosh, I'm sorry you guys, no, x is not good. So x minus x1. So you're going to work your way through the train to get it into slope-intercept form. This would be the point of the video, that if you're feeling confident and you want to give these examples a try on your own, you can pause this video and work your way through. If not, I'm going to work through one example of every different type of problem on this chapter, so you can keep watching if you'd like to do an example with me on your review sheet, okay? All right, I'm going to go through example 1. On your final exam, you're going to be asked to graph a linear equation that's in slope-intercept form. So all of these are written in y equals mx plus b form. So my suggestion to you would be to label right away what's your m and what's your b. So in this linear equation, my slope is 2 and my y-intercept is a -3. So remember back at your notes I said if you're asked to graph something in slope-intercept form, the m is how we move and the b is where we're going to begin. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to begin on the y-axis. Remember, this is the x over here. Since this is my y-intercept, I'm going to start at -3 on my y-axis. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. That's where I begin. Now I need to graph a linear equation. So I need a straight line here when I graph. And to move from this point, I'm going to graph a slope of 2. Now slope is always rise over run. So if you wanted to, and I think it would be helpful, remember you can always write a slope as a fraction by putting it over 1. So I'm going to graph a slope of 2 by going up 2. Remember, it's always rise over run. So from my point, I'm going to go up 2. I'm going to change my color. 1, 2, and then over 1. Remember to always run to the right. Up 2, over 1. And I'm going to keep going until I can't graph any more points. 2 over 1. Now I should be able to go the other direction. Since I went up 2 over 1, remember you can do the complete opposite, and this time I'm going to go down 2 over 1 to the left. Okay? Once you finish, you should have a nice straight diagonal line. Okay? So that's how you graph linear equations. You should be able to try these two. They're just like it. I'm going to go to the next page here if you want to follow me. The next section of your Chapter 4 final exam is going to ask you to write these equations in slope-intercept form. So you want your final answer to look something like this: y equals mx plus b. Now all you're given in these examples is a slope, and you're given a point. So whenever it gives you a slope and a point, I'm going to go back to my previous page here. If you're given a point and a slope, you can't immediately write it in slope-intercept form yet. You don't have enough information. So you need to start by putting it in point-slope form, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go back to my problems, and I'm going to start by writing it in y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. So I have to plug my information into this formula, and I should be able to convert it eventually to slope-intercept form. So watch what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to write my y, or I'm going to write the letter y, minus my y. What's my y? Well, remember a point always stands for x and y, so I'm going to take my y value. Y minus 2 is equal to my slope. My slope is 4. X minus, what's my x? My x is 1. So I plugged all my information into point-slope form. Now I need to make it look like this. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to first distribute that 4. So I'm left with y minus 2 is equal to 4 times x is 4x. 4 times a -1 is a -4. I'm almost there. I'm going to do one more thing. I need to get y completely by itself. So I'm going to add 2 on both sides. So I'm left with y equals 4x minus 2. And now my equation of a line is written in slope-intercept form. And that's it. You guys should be able to try these 3. They're just like example number 4. And the last thing you're going to have to do on your test is to identify If you're given equations of lines, you're going to have to tell me, are they parallel lines, are they perpendicular lines, or are they just two lines that aren't parallel or perpendicular? So remember from our notes back here that parallel lines are going to have the exact same slope and perpendicular lines are going to have the opposite reciprocal slopes. So that's the information that you're going to you're going to write here. Okay, what do we know about parallel lines? They have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So I'm going to do one of these with you. Let's look at example 8. When you're given equations of lines, remember they're in y equals mx plus b form. So right here would be my m, and right here is my m. Those are the slopes of these lines that I'm given. So I'm going to ask myself, are they exactly the same? No. So that means these two lines are not parallel. Okay, then I'm going to ask myself, are they opposites? Yeah, this one's positive, this one's negative. Are they reciprocals? Are they flipped? Well, this is 1 over 2. If I flipped 1 over 2, it would be 2 over 1, which is exactly what 2 is. So this one's positive, this one's negative. So yes, these are perpendicular lines. So you got to ask yourself those questions. Are they the same? Are they opposite? Are they reciprocal? And then you should be able to answer what they are. Okay? Alright, so you should be able to work through the rest of the examples on your own. Remember, you have an answer key that you can check. I would highly suggest that you don't check that answer key until you're completely finished. Alright, good luck with Chapter 4.